Just as we asked on our previous show, what the heck was Major League Soccer doing to capitalize on World Cup 2026? They released a press release saying that they were launching the largest coordinated marketing campaign in league history titled Thanks World, We'll Take It From Here. Spanning national broadcast, streaming, digital, and out-of-home advertising and media partnerships, the efforts are making the most expansive marketing effort in Major League Soccer history. So says the press release.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in various social media channels over the last couple of days, particularly where I live, where I choose to be on social media, and about how MLS was failing to capture any attention around the World Cup, that they just weren't doing enough or anything, actually, to get people excited about maybe going out and witnessing some MLS in the aftermath of the World Cup. And obviously a lot of this has to do, Rob, with the idea that, the World Cup is when all these casual fans are paying attention to soccer. And of course, if you are marketing soccer in America, you should be trying to capture some of that casual attention for your own benefit, right? And I do think that it's not as easy. It's very easy to go online. And I'm not trying to be mean to my friends in soccer media or in the soccer business or people who pay attention. I think it's very easy, though, to go throw stones and say, they're not doing enough. Where's the marketing? There's nothing out there, and binary it, right? Compare it to say, look at, I don't know, what other products are out there that are pushing themselves, and where's MLS? In the sense that, and look, I'm not saying that they always know better, but, you do have a difficult choice to make. How much you're going to spend, right? Now, maybe it makes sense. Spend more than you've ever spent before. Okay. When are you spending that money, Rob? What's the best way to capture attention? When do you spend that money? Do you spend it at the very beginning when there's game on top of game on top of game on top of game, when everybody's paying attention to the World Cup because there's so much World Cup? And you're just trying to capture a tiny bit of their attention while we're going, we had 3 and 4 games a day during the group stage, right?
We're over 100 games played in the last, 5-6 weeks.
I'm talking about the very beginning, especially. There's so much soccer. Does that mean that you should be trying? I mean, again, I'm just talking this out. Riverside Grove, just because it's easy to critique doesn't mean the critique is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a lot of people throwing out criticism without sort of thinking it through. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm saying we should be thinking it through. So MLS has chosen this moment. And I guess we're going to find out. I don't know what the proof will be that this is successful, but they're choosing this moment as the tournament winds down, as we've got now one semifinal in the book, and they did announce this a couple days ago before that Spain-France game. A semifinal today, obviously a final coming up on Sunday. What third place game is Saturday or something like that, if anybody cares about that thing. So you've got 3 or 4 games left when you drop this. Okay, and they're doing ads here. Now, Riverside Grove, there should have been game ads during the U.S. games. Should you be targeting people who are interested in the United States men's national team? Obviously, when 40 million people or whatever it was watched the U.S. lose to Belgium or watched at least part of that game, it would make sense to throw advertising into that. They're choosing this instead. And you did not enjoy the ad itself. They're choosing to use some sort of cover of a classic Tribe Called Quest song. Can I Kick It? Which obviously soccer and kicking and all those things. I'm not going to be too picky about that, only because if you are aiming at casuals, they're not going to think about it the same way you and I do as soccer fans. Oh, that's cheesy. So can I kick it? Yeah, man, look, they needed to do something. They're doing something. Is it enough? That's a big question.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see that they're doing something. It's interesting that it all was released as we were asking, has the ship already sailed? Because in my mind, is it better to be omnipresent throughout the entirety of this carnival of soccer here in the United States? I mean, people referencing, at least during the United States game, but if you were
omnipresent is impossible. That's what I'm saying. Omnipresent is impossible based on the amount of money you would have to spend to be omnipresent. What I'm saying is, okay, without sort of knowing what the budget is, and they're claiming that this is the biggest spend they've ever made. Right? That's what they're saying. Now, obviously, they want to be involved in the final, I'm guessing, at some point on Sunday. I don't know. I mean, I sort of like aiming at the Super Bowl. Like, oh, our entire ad budget for the year is going to go to a Super Bowl commercial. That kind of feels what this approach is like. Is it maybe the wrong approach? Sure, it's possible that this is the wrong approach. But there's no way that any reasonable business is thinking we're going to spend money all the way through a month or 5-week long tournament when it's going to cost us hundreds of millions of dollars to advertise across the entire breadth of that. So they're choosing this.
Yeah, just like one giant splash here right at the climax of it. And I guess where's the viewership? Is the viewership bigger, like you said, at the front of the tournament when there's games on games on games, or is there more eyeballs here at the biggest and most serious part of the tournament?
They're timing this because the league is back. Now, there's also this is also worth thinking about. Do you drop ads and promotion during U.S. games in the group stage, during the group stage in general, the early part of the tournament, the middle part of the tournament, et cetera, if you still have weeks before your league is back? Like, I'm asking. This is just a legitimate question on my part. I'm not building in any judgment here. Do you think it's better? You, Rob, would you think it's better to advertise in the early part of the tournament and say, well, we're back in 4 weeks, get ready, or to wait until you have games coming Thursday, just after the semifinals, when you can say, okay, pay attention, everybody, we're back?
I guess that is focusing on the immediacy of that's this thing I'm seeing it on TV. Oh, tomorrow I can put on my TV and watch that. So I do see your point there. And if the budget, they're saying that it's the most ever, but maybe that pot of money, that war chest of marketing dollars isn't enough to go big throughout it. So I do see your point of you push right when your product returns to the shelves. I can see that. And while I'm being skeptical of maybe like drawing it out, maybe spreading it out over a longer term. So, I mean, there's commercials for, I'm just thinking of, there's businesses here in Michigan that literally advertised for years before they were ever in the country. So it like becomes implanted in your mind as a commodity before it actually is released there. Sure. Just like Chevrolet being the sponsor for Manchester United, even though Chevrolet didn't exist in there. But credit where credit's due. Like just saying there's no Chevrolet dealerships in England. That's my point. And then just like there was no rallies in Michigan for years and they did commercials here. And then so when they actually finally did come, there was a pent up interest and intrigue and want to partake into that service. But I should give some credit further into this press release. They mentioned that 15 MLS specific clubs have done tailored marketing packages throughout the World Cup. Yeah. All 30 MLS clubs have done viewing events of some sort. And then 22 clubs are doing some kind of a first match on us for complimentary tickets for first-time attendees, which is something. So maybe that is a mixed approach of the big TV, the big-time marketing stuff is maybe back-end loaded here as the league returns, but they have been doing a little bit of stuff in local markets throughout. So maybe it's a little bit of a mixed approach. So maybe I shouldn't be so skeptical that they're just kind of blowing the whole lot right here at the end.
Again, I think it's easy to spend other people's money, right? It's easy to say, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that, depending on what the cost would have been. And I don't know. I just don't have that information, right? Yeah, of course, it seems crazy that MLS hasn't been more present during a World Cup on home soil. That does seem crazy. And I think it's probably fair to say that they didn't do the right thing based on how much attention the U.S. got during the group stage and into the knockout rounds. Now, you are making a bet, right? You are taking a risk. What if the U.S. does fail to get out of the knockout group stage? What if they fail to make the knockout? What if they play terribly? What if you're attaching yourself to a bad product? Now, I think you should just want to be positive and say, okay, well, we're going to ride those coattails. You know, Fox is one of the linear partners of MLS. Obviously, the major television partner is Apple TV, which people are reading into this, that Apple TV clearly isn't interested in pushing MLS if they weren't present around the tournament via Fox or Telemundo or whatever with Apple TV commercials pushing MLS. And that is obviously, oh, well, that means Apple doesn't really care about MLS and this is all bad for MLS. And I think worst case scenario thinking, that sort of catastrophe thinking runs rampant among American soccer fans because it's always they're not doing enough and never, oh, look at how far they've come, right? Because the bar is still there. It's not, we don't lower the bar and go, well, Major League Soccer has done pretty well in 30 years. Great. That's awesome. We go, oh, MLS is still not as good as this league, as good as that league. It doesn't have this much talent. It's not selling these kind of players. It's not capturing this much attention. It's not getting these TV ratings. It's not driving that television contract, right? Everything is always comparing MLS unfavorably to other sports products in America or soccer leagues elsewhere.
I mean, there's no real getting around that, but MLS returns to action. This is the 30th season for the domestic league. 30th, 31st season.
I think it's the 31st season. I think it's the 30th. I think last year was 30. This year 31st. I believe that's correct.
Well, numbers are hard because it started in 1996. It's 2026.
Yeah, but it's inclusive. So, yeah.
Well, they're returning to action for the 2026 season, regardless of which incarnation it is.
Well, okay, look, here's this is not something we might cover this later. I don't know. Maybe we should talk to Simon Evans or some other people that pay attention to these kind of things. The Bundesliga just signed a $100 million contract for television rights in America for games on USA Network and Fandango. Fandango has a streaming platform. I didn't know they had an over-the-top streaming platform.
It's usually for movies, right? I thought that was a movie thing.
Fandango was buy tickets. That's what I thought of Fandango. Apparently, they've got their own streaming platform. I've seen somewhere it might have been Vudu before. They bought it. Now, I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Mike Uju?
$100 million is not a lot of money for a league as good as the Bundesliga. Now, this is not meant to compare MLS. This is just to kind of say, here's a big-time league trying to get a foothold in America with American soccer fans. And you think about how hard it's going to be. Now, obviously, we don't give MLS a pass. It's the domestic league. It's supposed to be better. It's supposed to be popular in terms of people watching it. It's selling tickets. The teams are here, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's a thing. But the Bundesliga getting $100 million is kind of a drop in the bucket. Like, that's not a lot of money when you consider how big that league is in reputation. And obviously what the Bundesliga might be thinking is, let's just get a foothold in America through something more accessible than ESPN streaming, which I think is where the Bundesliga was. The only place you could watch the Bundesliga was to stream it on ESPN. So obviously, fairly that's paywalled. I mean, look, USA Network is also paywalled in the sense that it is cable. And then Fandango, I don't think you have to pay for Fandango. I don't know. There might be ads involved. I don't know. Okay. And again, this is all kind of, I'm seeing a comment in the chat from somebody who's not an ultra, so I won't bring it on screen. But basically the idea is like, or the thing is like, we don't quite know exactly what this looks like. You obviously have a massive club in Bayern Munich who's going to draw more attention than anything else that happens in the Bundesliga. Are you putting that on the most accessible place or the place where people can see it more easily? Remember also that USA is part of the NBC family, and there would be spillover games. In fact, one of my frustrations of being a Peacock subscriber for the Premier League is that games that are on USA aren't on Peacock. They're on USA, and I have to have a cable subscription to go access USA to watch whatever game they put on USA. That kills me because my wife's always like, "Can we cut cable? Can we cut cable?" Like, I don't think we can because there's stuff I can only access through having a cable subscription.
Yeah, that was definitely super, super frustrating. So you had to have 3 different services in order to watch all the Premier League games last year. And USA, yeah, I didn't have, I was decorded. I cut the cord, didn't have USA. So thankfully able to eventually, as the season wore on, was able to gain access to USA. But there was, I pay for Peacock. Why the heck can't I get these games?
And I'm seeing some of the chat here. How is Fandango more accessible than ESPN? I don't actually know, Riverside Grove. I don't know. I have to go check and see how you get Fandango. And is it like just one of those channels you get on your, like I have a Roku live TV. Is it there somewhere? Fandango channel. I don't know. Is it another app I have to download? I don't know. In terms of ESPN Plus has been the best deal on soccer viewership for the last 3 to 5 years. La Liga, Bundesliga. I'm probably missing USL Championship. I think was on ESPN quite a bit, right?
Yep.
So again, this is the further fragmentation of soccer viewing, of where we are supposed to go and watch our soccer and all the various things. Like I tell my wife all the time, because she's like, how many streaming services do we need? And I was like, well, I got to have Peacock. That's the Premier League. That's a major part of my job. I got to have Paramount Plus because that's the Champions League. That's a major part of my job. I got to have Apple. That's that's MLS. And that's a major part of my, like, obviously ESPN still has plenty of games. La Liga is on ESPN if I want to watch any of the games, El Clasico, whatever else. So, man, as soccer fans, we are being squeezed, right? We're being asked to stretch ourselves all over the place.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the sites that do the illegal streams. Those are getting cut down more and more and more as more energy is being put into cutting all those off to then force us into the pay for subscriptions and all that. So yeah, the squeeze is on, and it's probably just a microcosm of all the things. And yeah, throw on top of that HBO Max. And then is the women's national team on HBO Max as well? Yes. Or is that a whole other service as well?
Yes, but again, this is also that thing of the U.S. Soccer Federation controls the rights for games in the U.S. featuring those teams, or they might be friendlies abroad if those exist. I guess the U.S. women's friendly against Brazil was probably on HBO Max or on Turner, right? It's all kind of the same. It's you can watch it on Turner or TNT if you have a cable subscription. But if you have HBO Max, you can watch it streaming. But that's only games that U.S. Soccer controls, because U.S. Soccer doesn't control the rights to, say, the CONCACAF Nations League. Last time I checked, I don't actually know who has the rights to that right now. I mean, maybe it's HBO Max, but that's a separate package, a separate rights deal they have to negotiate because it doesn't fall under the heading. I mean, I don't know. It's all very messy. It is all very messy.
Amongst the background work we need to do to flesh this all out, we need a spreadsheet for all the networks needed to watch all the games we want to cover. We literally need an Excel spreadsheet.
If we wanted to be the cheap heat YouTube video guys, we should be doing a guide to watching soccer in America, and we should be making a video on where you can watch different properties in America on television or streaming. If you want to see, again, La Liga, Bundesliga, Premier League, the Championship, which is crazy to try to figure out where to watch championship games sometimes. Liga MX, obviously. I hadn't had one. Don't ask me why. I hadn't had one. I finally bought an HD antenna because I want to be able to tune into Telemundo over the air here when those games are happening. That kind of stuff, Rob. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many Liga MX games were available on terrestrial television until I moved to Chicago, and there's way more, terrestrial Spanish-speaking channels, and it's like you can get a huge bulk just on regular television if you're tapped into the Mexican League.
Unimas is over the air in a lot of major cities. Not every city, but over the air via an HD antenna in a lot of places. So yeah, then that's the. So I'm seeing a question about Telemundo being on Peacock for the World Cup. Everything Telemundo is doing is on Peacock. So that's how I'm watching the World Cup. But I don't believe that's the case for Liga MX as a rule. It's not like everything that's on Telemundo is also available on Peacock. That's only sometimes that those things are available on Peacock. I think they specifically did this for the World Cup. That's my understanding. But again, we all have to educate ourselves all the time about this.
And I have seen, I think it was on Sports Business Journal, that there is this is a little bit of a tangent, but Telemundo's success during this World Cup might lead to a change in how the TV rights are done language per language, because Telemundo, according to some ratings, has sucked away Fox's viewership here in the United States. And so it might be moving forward that one network gets the entirety of the nation rather than it being divided by language, because people are deciding to either mute or just watch in Spanish, which is a whole interesting development in its own right.
just as a way to get prepared now. So yes, that's absolutely a thing where because Telemundo has captured a lot of English speakers because they don't like Fox's coverage or because of the pausas de hidratación, like the water breaks, pausa de hidratación, because of like this kind of online movement to go watch Telemundo for whatever reason, turn your nose up at Fox. That is a thing where, oh, maybe we're going to sell the package to one outlet, English and Spanish in America. Also, remember the 2027 World Cup featuring our U.S. women's national team and their quest to win another title is happening on Netflix. Netflix Live
Oh,
Sports. Yeah,
wow.
Netflix has been doing live sports a little bit. They did the home run derby this week, Rob, for Major League Baseball, which I checked in on.
How,
Wasn't a
how,
fan of the production, but anyway.
how many crickets were watching that one?
How many crickets?
Yeah, like nobody was watching it. Crickets, whatever. I'll attempt comedy on our next show, but
I
yeah,
never thought it was the crickets are watching. It's just crickets because nobody's watching, and that's the sound you hear. But I didn't know the crickets were watching. That's
it's one and the same, Jason. One and the same. My point being is when Netflix has taken on these live things, it hasn't always gone well. I remember there were some big boxing matches where there was nothing but frustration on Netflix. And so I actually didn't fully comprehend that the Women's World Cup was on Netflix next year. And that kind of makes my stomach turn a little bit because that's not the same platform as, being on Fox. It's definitely not equal footing as what we're seeing here this summer. And so that's dims my light a little bit, like keeping that like that. We're talking about how we don't want the World Cup to end because we got used to having games on one after another for a month. And I was like, oh, Women's World Cup on next year, that's like the, keep the excitement going a little bit. But having on Netflix is kind of a bummer, I gotta say.
I mean, again, they need to up their game. People are pointing out Hitman Bob saying that they have WWE. I do see that every now and then. I'm not a wrestling guy, not anymore. So I don't, yeah. Buffering. I didn't have any buffering with the home run derby. I did have a couple of pixelated moments, but not buffering. I didn't think the actual coverage was all that great in terms of like, and look, it's a home run derby. It's not a real sporting event. So maybe I'm being too harsh. But there were some things, and I have watched other things on Netflix. I'm trying to remember what they were, but I have watched other live sports on Netflix. There was the very stupid Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight.
That's
That was
the one I was talking about.
that
That it
was a
was almost
disaster.
impossible to watch.
Yeah, you couldn't watch that. Yeah, you're right. All right, let's see how this goes.